Aging Humor, Level 2, Know Your Sense of Humor. It's 5 to 7 minutes. Marjane Taylor will be practicing the speech that she'll compete with at the Area 53 Humorous Speech Contest on Saturday, February 24th. This is a 5 to 7 minute speech. I will introduce her as she will be introduced at the contest with her name, speech title, and name. Please leave your mics on unless you've got a barking dog or a train passing by so that she can hear the audience reaction. Our next contestant, Marjane Taylor, Friday Night Freakout. Friday Night Freakout, Marjane Taylor.
I slammed my front door in the deputy sheriff's face. It was the first time that night. Why? Let's rewind. It was after 9 p.m. on a Friday night, and I was home alone. Suddenly, the doorbell rang. Is the pizza delivery boy lost again? Is it my neighbor? Is there a serial killer at the door? I was frazzled. My house looked like a tornado hit. Who would be coming to visit me at this hour? Do I have to answer the door? Contest master, anyone who's ever felt exhausted, anxious, and afraid of strangers in the dark, I was terrified. I peeked out of the window beside the front door, which obligated me to answer since the two people standing there were looking directly at me. When I opened the door, there stood a deputy sheriff and a young woman. He was mumbling something about a large spider. Now, you may have heard that the number one fear in the world is public speaking. That can't be right. Spiders are way, way worse. I wondered why a spider was ringing my doorbell at that hour and why it was accompanied by a deputy sheriff and his trainee. As I was opening the door, a monster the size of a small pony with 8 legs came galloping toward the door. I was in the middle of slamming the door in the deputy's face, so the spider wouldn't come in to my home. I was too late. The spider was already inside my house. A more rational person might have wondered what the deputy was there for. A less rational person might have wondered if the deputy was there to deliver bad news. I was jumping up and down, screaming loudly and opening the door, hoping that the monster spider would go back out where it came from. This was no itsy bitsy spider. I knew that if that 8-legged freak successfully hid in the house, one of us would have to move out immediately. The only other option I could think of was to set the house on fire. As that spider on steroids headed back out the door, the deputy asked me if I wanted him to kill it. Duh. Yes. I thought, great, he's going to shoot it. Instead, he stomped on it. Then the deputy started tap dancing on my front porch like he was auditioning for Dancing with the Stars. Ma'am, it was carrying babies on its back. Cute little trainee chimed in. Oh, look, they're all over the rug inside. You might just want to flip that outside. Well, thankfully, she picked up the baby spider infested rug, and then she flung it onto the front porch. When I looked down, there were thousands, well, maybe 17 baby spiders skittering around inside my front door. I screamed, "I'm going to go get the bug spray." Once again, I slammed the door in their faces. I made a run for the bug spray and gassed those baby spiders. It's amazing that I'm still alive to tell the tale, since it was a full 3 days before I could breathe again after freezing myself and the house with the bug spray. Still, I wondered how many of those spider babies had escaped my spray of death. I'm glad I wasn't bitten by one of those freaks. I'm not Peter Parker, and I certainly don't want to become Spider Woman. After stepping out onto the porch to talk to the deputy and to get out of the toxic house, the sheriff asked if a Robert Monahan lived here. I wondered what kind of trouble my husband must be in. He told me he was working late, but what was he really doing? I didn't think he would do anything heinous, but had he robbed a bank? Assaulted a little old lady? Stolen a candy bar? How well did I really know him, even if we had been married for over 25 years? As it turns out, not as well as I thought. He's now my ex-husband. And that's another story. Does your husband own a motorcycle? Yes. Do you know where it's at? Well, I know it's not in my living room. I checked there at least twice this past week. Let me get my cell phone and call him. Once again, I went inside, slammed the door in their faces, and left the spider killer and his friend standing on the front porch. I tried desperately to reach my missing husband. There was no answer. By this time, I was back on the porch trying to explain that I didn't really know how many motorcycles Robert owned. The deputy thought someone had stolen my husband's motorcycle. Turns out he had sold it and the paperwork wasn't clear. You know, maybe I should have been more afraid of slamming a door in the deputy's face. Maybe I should have been more afraid of why a deputy was asking about my husband. Or maybe I should have just used that spray on my husband. Much like a spider, it turns out he was also good at spinning webs. Webs of lies.
Thank you, Marjane. All right. Let's go ahead and bring up our facilitator, Sue Lightoff. And you can start out with the round robin so that we can pick a few people to evaluate Marjane's speech. Thank you.
Right, as Paula said, it'll be a round robin at about 30 seconds. If the person in front of you has said what you were going to say, you can always pass. We're going to go ahead and start off with Peter, Melanie, and then Molly. So Peter?
Yes, ma'am. Marjane, I enjoyed hearing that speech again. You've very clearly been working on it, rewriting it diligently. I thought the flow is much better and the speechcraft is much better. Structurally, my only concern really is how you bring in your husband at the end. Perhaps if you somehow mention him earlier on, as our guest speaker said, then when you bring him in at the end, you have some callbacks for it. So otherwise, clearly been working on it. Nice job.
Thank you, Nee. Thank you, Nee. Melanie.
Thanks, Marjane. Really enjoyed hearing your speech again. I thought there were so many funny points that you raised about the triads with the pizza delivery lost again, the frazzled and the tornado hit in your house. I've listed a whole lot of funny things. I don't think I can go through it, otherwise I'll take the whole segment. Bug spray there, I like the way that you moved in. I thought that was quite effective because it was repeated a number of times. The only other thing that I think you could make it even funnier is there might be an element of surprise if you can actually stand up and use the screen, then you could drop down and hide away and do other things as well if you're standing up. Next person.
Molly, I thought we'd love to hear what you had to say.
Well, thank you, Marjane. Excellent speech. Very much enjoyed it. I especially like the way that you kept repeating that you were slamming the door in their faces. That was very effective. I wondered whether you could build in at the beginning of the speech somewhere more about your fear of spiders, so that when it happens, there's a little bit that you can call back on, and maybe you can really show some physical activity and in feeling like you're like punching those or squashing those spiders, or really making the gestures so that people, because I know I would be going crazy if they were in my house, especially when you had so many. Well done. I loved your speech, Marjane.
All right, go for a guess.
Next
Rachel,
person.
would you like to give a 30-second evaluation?
I absolutely can. As the first time hearing this speech, I was very impressed. It was easy to get in, be excited about, and follow along. I do appreciate the pun intended threads that you weaved that carried the entire speech. It fit very well. I'm excited to see where it goes in contests. What I think at the end, a good potential joke for you to build is making fun of, now the thing I'm not afraid of now is the spiders, but my husband, and finding some way to make it so that the spiders are maybe not the villain in the story, but the husband is, and it switches that audience perspective. Thank you.
And maybe last for this one, Mara, would you like to offer anything from Marjane?
Of course, and thank you for the opportunity. Well, because I listened that it was for a contest, I don't know, I hope not to be too severe, but I want to give you these recommendations with my heart. I think that the thing that grabbed a lot of my attention is that I was trying to see your hand gestures and they were not framed. I think that when you are doing humorous speeches, it's very important the delivery. I think that your facial expression were magnificent because you were in the standing position, and the part that I love it is when you were near. But as you are near, you need to be far. So, for instance, when you say, "Oh, the spiders," and you just could you see the drama? And I think that about the clothes, I see your red jumper with the coach, which is black. So you need to do this contrast because I think that, for instance, if you have the white wall and dark colors, like myself, did you see my black color and the background? So I want the same for you. You have maybe a white clothes will be the contrast, and your eye contact at the beginning, you were using your glasses, you remove it, but it was not connected with the story. So I want to see more eye contact. And in relation to the content, I totally agree. I love 1, 2, 3, 5.
Mara, we're running out of time. Sorry, we've got like 30 seconds. So if you can just maybe one quick little thing, and then we need to move on.
No, that's okay.
Is there something else you need to add?
That's okay.
All right, well, thank you. Those who were not called on this time, you will be open for a 30-second the next time. And we're kaput for now, so back to Paula.
Thank you, Sue. And